Good evening from Vietnam, Karen. Thanks a lot for spending your beautiful morning joining our show and share your insights on a beautiful topic that we would love to pick the brain from experts around the world and the topic of wisdom. And on behalf of the listeners, we want to say thank you to you.
Thank you for having me.
And Karen, we're excited to have a future plan that we can collaborate together in this region. And for the little taste of our culture over here, it's very honored if we can have you to share a little bit about who you are to our audience so that they know who Karen is and the work she's doing. You please do that.
My pleasure. I am Karen Eber, and I am the owner and chief storyteller of Eber Leadership Group, which is a leadership development consulting boutique that works with companies on how they're building their leaders, teams, and culture one story at a time. I did a TED Talk, I think 5 years ago, that took off, and it was about what happens in your brain when you experience stories and why they're so important for leaders to tell. And that led to my book, The Perfect Story, which builds on those concepts and breaks down how to tell stories. And I came to storytelling from a 20 plus year career on the corporate side, where I worked in companies like General Electric and Deloitte as a head of culture and a head of leadership development, where I was always focused on how to help people bring their best forward. And I found that it didn't matter where people were in the world or what their age was or what their preferences were. Stories connected with them and helped them think about what they wanted to do and who they wanted to be as a leader. And I find that they're one of the most important skills that we can use as humans, but especially in leadership. And I love helping people get smarter at that.
Wow. You see, the topic today is about wisdom and being able to tell that story, to tell, to share what wisdom is falling directly onto your area of expertise. So I really look forward into this conversation, Karen. And let's start simple, okay? Because each of us will have our own definition of what is wisdom in our perspective, and we would love to hear from you. So, Karen, how do you define wisdom in your own words?
I think for me, it starts with curiosity. It's
Mm.
an openness to be exposed to different ideas and knowledge and experiences. Because with that, you gain reflection and you learn and you grow, and your world gets so much bigger. And I find those that are maybe lacking some wisdom, aren't quite open, aren't experiencing that curiosity and the ability to explore different things. So to me, that's the heart of it, this curiousness for the world around us and the people in it.
Okay, so you start from curiosity.
Yeah.
Okay, it can start from anything, any area, any other things, but then you chose curiosity. We want to dive in deeper to that. Why did you decided to put curiosity as a core for defining wisdom in your life?
I find if I think about in all of my years in work settings, the best moments happen when people were curious and they were open, right? Curiosity leads to growth mindset. It leads to communication and collaboration. And the moments when people aren't curious are when the problems arise, and the times when we haven't slept and we're hungry and all of those other things have happened, we're not as curious. And so I think that this willingness to just be open to explore and experience is a critical gateway to wisdom.
Wow, wow. But curiosity seems to be challenging for a lot of people these days. On our journey to growth as child, our curiosity level is huge, and then as we age, the curiosity by all means is going down. What happened to us then?
That's a good question. And I think that to further complicate it, there is almost a binary thought of you're either with me and my perspective or you're against me and my perspective, which I think has happened because of social media and the way that we're fed certain things through algorithms and some really difficult things that have happened over the past several years. It seems to create this divide, and it almost takes this intention to say, Like, let me not try to label me versus you or us versus them. Let me be open to trying to understand and explore. It is interesting, though, that as children, our worlds are just full of curiosity and imagination and exploration and all of those great things that we seem to chip away at as we get older with responsibility and deadlines, and we have to remember to leave space for it.
So you say we have to remember to give space for curiosity, right? So if I want to take back my curiosity and all our audience to gain back that superpower that's inside of us, and how can we
Yeah,
make that reverse engineer?
I think it's really easier than we think. So I start every day with a walk. I'm outside walking for 60 minutes or more. And it's very easy to just walk along and think about all the things you're going to do for the day, or listen to music or a podcast, and you're just doing the walk. But I set a goal every day of, I want to experience a moment of awe. And so I look for, what is that moment of awe? Maybe it's today, it was a beautiful tree, a beautiful tree with cherry blossom blooms, right? We're in spring here in my city. And so it was just beautiful, pink floral explosion. And it was like, that's my moment of awe today. And it's that simple. I'm not just going to go through this walk for 60 minutes and be outside and check the box that I moved. I'm going to intentionally try to experience awe. And so I think it's, as we're planning our weeks, as we're looking at what we have to do, it's just asking yourself, how can I be more curious this week? How can I be more open to what I might gain from those around me or from the experiences that I have?
So we exercise every single day to find something new that we can experience along the way, right? And from the knowing to the doing, Karen, is always a gap in there, and how can we overcome that gap so that we put the what we intend to do into really doing the action, the works for it, so that we can get back our curiosity and eventually, get back the wisdom that we deserve to have in life.
I think if we think of everybody as a leader in different moments, and as leaders, we can help bring that out in others. So it doesn't have to be just at the front end, I'm going to set the intention to be curious today. It can be at the back end of each week, each team meeting, every milestone, we stop and look backwards and think, like, what did we learn and how did we get here? And what would we want to do more of going forward? And what would we want to do less of? Or when I'm having check-ins with people, I'm asking those questions. If as leaders, we recognize that part of our responsibility is to create that reflection, that curiosity in the people we're working with, to help them bring out their best, then that becomes something that people pay attention to. If you don't just think of it in terms of yourself, but you get curious for, if I, as a leader, am supposed to deliver through others, how do I figure out where they're at their best and create the right circumstances, help them create the right circumstances to do that, then you can get there so much faster. So I think incorporating these habits of, let's just take a tactical pause and think about how we got here and what we want to do more of or what we want to do less of, can be hugely helpful.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to pick a magic number in here, Karen, because assuming that we've been curious for our life, and then we came up with ideas, and through years we experienced through ideas, that gave us the experience, the exposures, and at what age do you think is where we started to see the wisdom start to kick off and be a wise man or a wise woman in life?
I don't know if anybody ever feels that. I mean, I think you look back and you start to see patterns in your life and you recognize what motivates yourself or what often happens as a pattern in your life. But the great thing about curiosity is it means there's always more in front of you. and you're never going to reach the threshold where you are the smartest elder and have nothing to learn. I don't know. I don't know anybody that, well, I can think of maybe one person, you know, sometimes people in politics often think that they are like, I am the smartest person in the world. So maybe there's a few people that think that, not that wisdom necessarily means smart, but I think that part of wisdom is recognizing that we're continually learning and evolving and growing and exposing ourselves to things, and that's always going to continue. And that's part of the journey. It's not reaching a station, it's continuing on and seeing how that grows.
Because you said that, so I want to ask you this. Next question is about the authenticity in here, because we live in the world that a lot of people seems to be or claim to be wise and with this recognition or that recognitions, and it's confusing for other people to, you know, to look up on to who they should be following because of their expertise or because of the wisdom that they've been accumulated over the years that can help be really helpful, right? So if you look at one person and having a conversation with that person, then how did you know that this is the right kind of the person with that strength, that wisdom to for Karen to continue invest your time and energy onto following or learning or having that person as a mentor or a coach?
It's a really interesting question. I especially think with like AI. So if you're talking about your exposure to them is maybe through social media, there are a lot of people that are just generating AI content that is fine. There's merit in it, but there's not the authenticity and it doesn't feel like it came from someone. My approach is I follow a lot of people initially, and then I filter. So I intentionally follow people that have different beliefs that maybe challenge my thinking, that are going to help me make sure I'm not just too narrow in my thought. So there's some people that I don't agree with, I don't share their values, I don't want to be like, but I follow to make sure I'm stopping and reflecting. Now, there's a point where that's no longer helpful to me and it becomes the energy drain that you mentioned. And so when I notice that I feel my energy being depleted by someone, that I'm not gaining ideas, but I'm losing that, I'm feeling drained, then I stop following. But a lot of times, just by taking the mindset of let me expose myself to different people, you find so many fascinating people and ideas and perspectives. And some people you get one idea from and that's all you'll ever get and that's enough. And then there's other people that you consistently see what they put out feels interesting and thought-provoking and allows for you to take these moments and have curiosity, and you make sure you check them frequently. So to me it's a matter of just keeping looking and exposing yourself to different things, and then from there it's a feeling of whether it is something that's helpful to you or whether it's taking energy from you.
So the key word in here is first is follow so many people, and then you start to filtering down to the people that you want to put on the list of regular check-ins, right? And I like the thing that you say that even if the one that draining your energy, but if you can take one or two ideas out of the people and apply into your life, that's wonderful. So since when you have that mentality, that beautiful mentality that you can always pick up ideas or something beautiful from anyone around you and use it for your own benefit?
I think that COVID was very helpful in allowing us to have access to many different people and many different ideas, because we were sitting in our respective spaces and not connecting in person the way we were. And so that's how we met, and many other people. And it was this chance to broaden your circle. And I just met and connected with so many people all over the world. And I almost am a little sad the way social media is now, because there aren't quite the same channels that there were at that time to be able to have those connections. I don't want to sound too virtuous. There are plenty of people that I tried following and I can't, and I find it's a big energy drain. And so I start muting and unfollowing, because for me, what I started to recognize is there are some people that give me energy of ideas and thought and excitement and stimulation. And there are some that it just is no longer helpful to me and it's draining. And I notice that energy dip. And so that's when I unfollow or mute. And then there's a whole bunch of neutral. And so I'm generous at first, and then I pull back and pay attention to what is most healthy for me in there. And that has been interesting. So there were a whole bunch of people that I met 5 years ago through social media that sometimes I don't even get to see anymore based on how the algorithms are. But it was such a interesting time that it's going to be fascinating to try to recreate in a different way now.
When you say that it's a feeling, right? So it's a feeling for you to feel that, okay, this person give you the energy, this person give you a lot of exciting ideas. So help us to understand what kind of ideas that ignite and increasing the energy for Karen. What kind of ideas gonna be draining the energies away from you?
Well, I think, to me, the energy of leadership is when you bring your strengths forward and you manage what weakens you. So strengths meaning those things that make you feel strong, that make you feel energized. So if you got up and you saw your calendar was packed full of these things, you would be tired at the end of the day, but you would be in the state of flow and in the zone because you're doing the things that you love. Those are our best weeks. For me, that's a combination of being able to give keynotes and help people learn how to be better leaders and storytellers, and working with people individually on coaching or breaking through on a leadership challenge. And so I get energized when I hear people bringing different ideas around the challenges that they're facing, or the things that inspire them in the world, or just where someone else is in that moment of playing to those things that energize them. That's always interesting to me. And the flip of that then is that when you start to notice those things that weaken you, that deplete you, you may be fantastic at performing them, but the thought of it is just draining. So I'm very organized and detailed, but if I have to spend a day doing expenses, that's draining. I don't love that. And so I started to notice in some of these interactions, sometimes people, when you see there's some people that will post the same thing over and over, they're complaining about the same thing, or there's just not this openness to wanting to try to do anything different or consider anything different. Or if I post something and people immediately start attacking it, like that's just draining. And so over time, you start to notice where are those places where I'm feeling depleted, and how do I just navigate that differently?
So how quickly you be able to realize, if that is a negative source or it's going to be a positive source? How long does it take you to have that idea sit with you before you decide to make the next action?
About as fast as it takes for me to hit the mute on social media. It's a pretty immediate thing. I mean, you have to be careful, right? Because part of curiosity is not thinking my ideas are the best and I'm not here to learn from anybody. But there are definitely negative opinions or negative people that are just trying to provoke you, or sometimes it's bots. And so you can pretty immediately tell on those. But other times it's just the things they're talking about. Like if I can tell that they're just churning a bunch of AI stuff and they're not putting any thought in there, that to me isn't helpful either. And so sometimes I will mute some of those to make space for the ones I do want to see. The fast mutes are usually where it's a bot or it's an internet troll, but the others are more over time, when it makes me think I'm not able to hear other voices because of what's filling the feed.
The reason I ask for that is, a lot of people got excited because maybe the crowd effect, right? So my friends, the friends around me, the colleagues following this person or doing this kind of trendy things, and then if I don't do it, I fear missing out, right? So I follow in that, and then if I don't have the checkpoint early enough, so that I'm gonna waste a lot of time later on just to know that I've been wasting the most valuable assets in my life, which is my time. So you mentioned that if it's aligned to your values in here. So if it's not aligned to your values, then is where we start to question and decided to continue on or put it on mute, right? And so that will lead into a different direction for this conversation is how do you come up with a set of values that you will lead by that can help you to really decide who's going to mute and who's not going to mute in here, Karen.
Yeah, I think it's an important step in being a human first, but also being a leader. You do have to think about what you value in yourself and others. So one of my strong values is I want to help people I work with feel seen and valued. I want them to feel like people that at least I understand what they're offering and what they can bring. We love to help people develop, but sometimes we forget to tell them what they do really well. And so that's something that I value and I try to help value in others. And that's something that's been true throughout my life. Another big value that I've always held when I worked inside companies and in my role now is I want to help people figure out where they're at their best and then get them a clear runway so they can put it in motion and start to see what they do and how they're successful. And so over time, it is often a feeling where I can recognize what is important to me and when am I able to do that and when am I not able to do that. And when I've hit these moments throughout my career where something felt off, where I felt like I wasn't quite able to realize something or do something, I would reflect on why and what didn't feel right about it until I got to, okay, there's things that are really important to me. Trust is very important to me. Honesty is very important to me. Integrity, collaboration, but it's also some of these other specific things that I try to bring to different interactions. And so I always try to notice when something feels off, what is it that feels off about it? Is it the circumstances? Is it the person? Is it my understanding of the situation and what would make it feel different? And as I start to think through those pieces, I start to see the patterns of what's important to me and when I feel at my best and energized or when I feel depleted.
Beautiful. So the reflection seems to be very important on your activities, your main activity in living and working, right? So what do you do when you having that reflection time? What normally Karen is doing for that?
So there's probably two pieces to reflection time because it is insanely important. It's something that I practice probably daily, but definitely weekly. And it's something I encourage everybody to do because you have to take a moment and lift your head from everything happening and think about what you've learned and what you want to do. So the first piece is logistical. I spend time every single week looking at my calendar and making sure that I have time for reflection. So I am more of an introvert that does my best thinking when I have the time to internalize it and have quiet time to restore my energy. So I will often have a day that is back to back to back of client meetings and coaching conversations where I don't have time in between because I know I'm not going to get anything done and I'm not going to have reflection. But I then know, okay, where can I fit in a little bit of time that next morning, or where do I have dedicated time on a Friday to think back through these things and what I want to do different. So it is a constant planning for chunks of time and moments to be able to process and think what comes of it. And for me, it's also how do I then bring my best to my clients and what I want them to need or what I want them to be able to do, because a lot of times you don't know it in the moment until you've had that time to reflect and then the aha comes. The second piece is it's usually when I'm walking. It is usually those morning walks when I am telling myself, look for that moment of awe. I'm not even intentionally giving myself a list of things to reflect about, it just pops in. And in that, something emerges that is what was needed. And I keep my phone with me so I can drop a note and follow up on it later. But I find both the logistical piece of it and then making sure that I'm able to do that reflection is key.
You mentioned one word here is very important is notice. Okay, so
Mm.
observing and noticing. And a lot of us see things in front of our eyes, but we will not be able to see the beauty of it or the ugly of it, the good side of it or the negative or the not good side of it. For us to notice, and the reflection time is meaningless or it's less of its meaning if we don't have that we cannot notice what is important that we need to put onto the thinking during the reflection time. So how do you practice the noticing ability to see things in your life?
So force it initially. Ask
Mm.
yourself, what are 3 things that I learned this week? What are 3 things I want to do differently this week? Like, give yourself a number. When something is really open ended, like what did I learn? Your brain struggles to remember what specific piece it's supposed to go to. But if you say to yourself, what's one thing that I took away from that conversation or that I learned, it's really helpful. So I had years ago done this leadership retreat with a colleague, and he called me after and he said, what did you take away from that experience? And I hadn't been thinking about it, but on the fly, I said, well, I think this and this. And for 10 minutes, I talked about all these reflections. And I said to him, well, what did you take away from it? He said, nothing. It didn't occur to me to think about it. And I thought, I just spoke for 10 minutes. You didn't get a single thing out of this whole experience. And I realized it's a muscle, it's a habit. And so start with, what is one thing that I remember? Even when you're with people in meetings, like, what is one thing that we're going to take from this or that we want to do different? When you start giving yourself that, we can always come up with one thing or 3 things. And then the more you're doing that, the more quickly you start to notice things before you're having those conversations, you're having those moments. And then you're not even driven by a number. It's really what feels most important to take away.
Beautiful. I Karen, I'm afraid that if I put notice, I keep on noticing so many things happen in life, I will be missing. I will be seeing so many things that I'm not happy to see, and it will fill my vocabulary or my experience with the negative energies more than the positive energies. So, what can I do to to put onto the experience, the noticings of the real experience that I have in my life, but not going to be overwhelming with only just the negative things around what happened in our day.
There's a framework that I think comes from Accenture. It is square, circle, triangle. So square is, what is it about this experience that squares with my thinking, that aligns with my thinking, that validates what I already knew? The circle is, what are those things that I'm still thinking about, still processing, that I haven't quite realized what that is yet, but I know I want to keep thinking about it. And the triangle is the delta. What are those things that I want to take from this and do differently? I find that a really helpful framework for just a quick thing, whether that's a conversation or a coaching session or an experience or a leadership training, to step back and really take and turn it into something constructive and not have you focus on all positive or all negative, but it's truly like, what do I take from this and move forward with?
Beautiful. I definitely will look onto that model, square, circle, and triangle, right? Thank you for teaching me that one tonight, Karen.
Thanks to Accenture. It's not mine. I thought it was such a smart way of approaching it.
Uh, um, in terms of because we're talking about wisdom, then I need to talk into the the topic of aging and wisdom also. It seems like uh, there's a lot of debate on the topic that when we got older, then we get wiser, and so I just want to hear whether or not you agree on that. On that statement or
Yeah,
yeah.
I do. But I also think there's a mindset piece to it. So I
Mm,
had a great aunt live to be over 100, and to me, the ability to live over a century, and in the time that she lived, she saw cars and electricity in home and all of these changes that were dramatic all the way through the internet and things that the younger version of herself as a child could have never imagined, yet she kept up with it. And I know people in my life now who are about to turn 100, and same thing, and they have mobile phones and they interact with the world in a way that is just so impressive to me. And so I think that there is a wealth of knowledge, but there's also this openness to understanding where the world is now, to know how your knowledge fits in. Because I
mm.
think sometimes in certain cultures, when we discount the elder knowledge, it's because we feel like it's not relatable or practical to what we're experiencing now. And if you can stay current and understanding of where things are now, you can translate that easier so people understand it and they're not dismissive of it.
So what can we do to bridge that gap to have the different generations, different age group will be able to harmonize, to transfer the knowledge and learn from one another?
There's, I believe it's in Denmark, there's this idea of the human library where you check out a human for a few hours and they talk to you. So you can, let's say you want to learn more about engineering, like mechanical engineering, you can go check out this human that's a mechanical engineer and you sit and you talk with them and you learn fascinating things. And so you can check out humans on so many different things. And again, you have to have curiosity to do it, but you learn so much. And we don't need a physical library or the idea of it. We just need this openness to talk to people. And so when I was leading teams in corporate, I would take my teams into the world and we would go to different things and listen and study and explore and reflect, like, what does this mean and what do we do with it? Visit historical sites and talk to different people and try to learn from it. And so I think it's a little bit, again, of set some intention of where can we be listening and learning from others, and where can we make sure we're not losing knowledge and experience that can help us today.
Beautiful. Karen, you live your life, you ask a lot of good questions, to help you and your team to discover the things around is the work life and stuff. So I'm just curious to understand uh, if there is one or two big questions that becoming that Karen been asking every day, for yourself, to make sure that you stick with whatever important in your life. So, what is the one or two questions that you normally constantly asking yourself?
One is this important for me to be doing? So I scroll social media, very guilty of it, and a lot of times I'll check myself of, is this what's most helpful for me to be doing right now? Is this where my time should be going? Same thing when during the workday, it's easy to get caught up in the wrong stuff. And so because I plan my schedule, I will check and see, is this most helpful? And some days, yes. Some days it's been a full week and my mind needs a break and I'm not going to be productive on other things. So, yeah, that's okay. This is what you should be doing. And other days it's not. So, a constant checking in of, like, where's my energy at and what do I have capacity for? And same with teams of, how do you helping people be their best isn't you're going to be your best from 8 until 5 or 6, whatever your local time is. It's recognizing within the cycle of life what you need in a given moment. And so the biggest shift that I've made over the past few years is just embracing, it's not about the hours, it's about the moments that feel most meaningful, and how to set them up so you can have more of them, and how to step away and take a break when it's just not going to happen.
Beautiful. And see, you mentioned about social media, you mentioned about technology. Sorry, we want to bring the topic of artificial intelligence onto this conversation also.
Yeah.
Want to hear your perspective on whether or not that tools gonna be helping or hurting us on our journey of accumulating wisdom in our life?
Both.
Both.
So I think of AI the same way I think of so many things that we've experienced with leadership, um, as the internet came and email came, and as we got more data, there's been this constant pattern, as we went virtual and now hybrid. The We tend to over rotate as people, meaning like when we started to get smarter on data analytics, people went data crazy without stepping back and trying to think about what questions are we trying to solve? How do we want to use this data? We just put up a whole bunch of data and created a lot of confusion. When COVID started, we went 100% virtual in many cases, and then now you see companies trying to go back 100% in person, and so there seems to be this binary approach that happens throughout leadership that we get wrong, and we over rotate too far instead of stopping and asking what is most helpful. So like with data, what are the questions we're trying to solve? What are the hypotheses we're testing? With the hybrid work, it is, when is it most important for us to come together, and why, and what does that look like? And for AI, it's not do we use AI, don't we use AI? It is, when can this help us? When can this eliminate some of the energy drains or the repetition? Where's our time best spent as individuals? Where do we need to be really authentic? And how do we focus that and use AI in other places that our time is just better served? And so my wish is that we get better at not over rotating on every single thing that happens, but instead really try to think about where we integrate on it. And I think what's going to happen, some are already using it in not helpful ways now, and some are getting smarter about how to use it. What I've heard most recently in research is that men are using AI and experimenting with it more than women. And that's problematic because we all need to be experimenting with it to figure out what's helpful. So it's a place that we will probably over rotate on and then settle into what feels right.
Oh, so it's also gender inequality in using AI also. So
there is.
there.
I was surprised to hear that, but I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense that there's just different levels of experimentation, but like anything, any group can be left behind if they're not there experimenting and trying different things.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned what I think quite a few times in this conversation. And Karen, my wife and I, we always on the quest to help people to improve their ability to think, because that is where we believe that how we gonna govern our energy, like you mentioned, right? How we gonna know what to focus on and what not to focus on, and and that's where the transformation will change for our lives. So one of the way, put it that way. So Karen, how have you been growing your own ability to think over the years? And when I ask that question,
my best thinking comes through writing. I think as an introvert, that processing and then having a chance to sit down with a keyboard crystallizes thoughts in ways differently. There are certainly things that happen when I'm with a group and I'm working with them and people ask questions, and then magic happens and I'll hear myself say something and then I want to run and write it down really quick so I can think about it. But most often it starts on the page, and it's thinking through questions I've been getting or things that I see that people are grappling with. So this idea of people over rotating is a piece I've been working on for a while that I want to be able to bring forward and offer suggestions. And so that internalization is where I think I crystallize thinking. And then part of my job is keynotes and connecting with people. And so then I have to think about how do you take what's on the page and share it live, which is different. But a big piece of my time goes to having that ability to sit down and reflect and then put the time on the page to see what I can bring forward.
beautiful. Now I want to go to your expertise is storytelling, okay,
Yeah.
and the piece of wisdom. So how can we leverage the expertise of storytelling to magnify the wisdom and spread it and transfer it from one generation to the next, or give it as long as it could be as far it could be for many people to use in their lives.
That's what storytelling is, right? Storytelling is building an understanding in someone else's mind, and it's the fastest, most dynamic way we share our wisdom. And it's also the most authentic. AI is getting better at stories, although they're not as good, but it doesn't feel the same as when a person is sharing their experience and you're really getting a sense of who they are and what they did, that we have that neurochemical response because it is a human that is sharing their experience. But stories are this way to build an understanding, whether you are interviewing for a job or you're sharing information with another team or people in your life. They allow for people listening or reading to feel like they're in the story and understand what you are experiencing or that you're describing. They feel relatable, and even if we've never had that experience, we're going to remember that. And then when we face that, we're more inclined to make a more informed decision than if we've never experienced something before. So they are our oldest form of instruction, and it will continue to be probably our most important, because it doesn't matter how aided we are by technology, we still need to relate to one another as humans, and stories are such a compelling way to do that.
Beautiful. Two last questions. Okay. One question is about the one thing that you want to see, the one wisdom out of the many things that you want to see happen in this world. So, what would that one is, and why you want it?
Just ask a little question. That's, not that big of a question, is it? I have no idea what one thing I want to see. I think that at this moment in time, we are very, at least in the US, we are very divided. And I know that's true probably in many different cultures and countries in the moment. And I do think social media has contributed a great deal to that, where algorithms have fed people different things, and there's all sorts of misinformation. And so people, it seems to have led to a decrease in tolerance to being open to other perspectives and other ideas. And that's the beauty of the world. We all have these different ideas and perspectives and experiences. And that's probably the biggest change I would love to see, where there's not a us versus them, but there's more of an openness and interest in recognizing that we all have experiences to learn and benefit from.
Karen, if there is a one time in your life that I want to travel with you, travel time to bring you back into that time, this is not the question, okay? I just want to, you pick one age that is memorable to you. What, pick for me.
There's so many. Probably, I would say right after university, I moved to the Boston area, and it's that time in your life where you're viewed as an adult, but you don't feel like an adult. And you're viewed as having knowledge, but you don't really have knowledge and experience. And so it's such a formative time. And, it's before I was married. And so you're just in this place in life that everything is in front of you and about to unfold, and you get to choose what it was. And that was just a very fun place to be and learn and grow. That would be, with the knowledge I have now, that would be very fun to go back to.
So the question is, if now you and me travel to talk to that Karen right after university, and you want to have a word of wisdom to that Karen, okay, about work, about life, about friendship, about anything that you want to, talk to that young little girl, right? What is that you are going to tell her?
So I wouldn't, because I don't think any younger version of me would have wanted to hear anything from an older version. But what I do like is the flip of it. So instead of like, what would I tell the younger version of me? I think it's interesting to think about, what would the younger version of me think about my life now? And what were the things that she thought I would be doing and what my life would be like? I have a friend that was at a place in her life where she was debating ending a relationship and changing jobs, and she did. And she said the thing that made me do it is I realized the younger version of me would have been so just sad for where I was. And I thought, what a really interesting reflection. And that caused her to make changes and build the life that the younger version of her would have been proud of. And I think, the younger version of me probably would have been idealistic to some degree, but she would have been super excited that I have a TED Talk and a book and friends and family that I enjoy, and I spend my time doing things that I love. And so that to me is the fun part if I think about what she would think today.
And she's proud of you for making that journey a beautiful journey for the two of you.
She's probably laughing at me, but that's okay.
Yeah, such a wonderful conversation we've been having, and and I really enjoy this. I think there's a lot of insight you brought into this one, a lot of things that it will make me to think tonight. And for our audience, when they listen to this conversation, I hope that they will take some quiet time to walk or to stay and have a reflective moment about the insight you share in here. And I think that that will help their future self be happy of what they did for that moment. Okay. So, and for me, I would love to see you in person, and I really look forward into that day, Karen. I wish you all the best, and we love you from Asia. Okay?
Thank you.
Bye bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.